call to order. We are here. Roll call, please.
Mr. Arnold,
I am here.
Ms. Banks, Ms. Bell. Here. Mr. Brown,
Here.
Ms. Carter,
Here.
Ms. Clark, Ms. Friedman,
Here.
Reverend Gordon,
Here.
Ms. Harding,
Here.
Ms. Howe, here, Ms. Mendoza Locke, Mr. Knowles, Mr. O'Connor,
Here.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Here.
Mr. Stengel, Major White, here, Ms. White.
Thank you. Let's recognize our visitors, starting with Richard.
Shannon Hedge, board staff.
Robert Castle, board staff.
Tina Layson, board staff.
Paul Lewis, Government Council, and St. Paul Community Center Board of Trustees.
Julie Rutherford, board staff.
Amy Kirkmeyer, board staff.
Annie Minton, CJC Smith.
Jason Pollock, pass. Elijah Jones, board staff.
Faith Gallagher, board staff.
Erica Tapley, Harvard Basic Team member and University of Toledo Masters of Social Work student.
Great. Glad to have all of you here.
Can I,
Yeah, go ahead.
as is customary, when we have a new CEO in the room, we make special, to pay special attention, and Jason Pollock is joining us today. He is the new Executive Director of TASC. So welcome, Jason.
Oh, hi, Jason.
All right. Are there any additions, corrections, modifications to the minutes of the last meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion passes. The minutes are approved. Susan will show me as an abstention since I wasn't here. Treasurer's report, Jenny.
The financial statements for December start on page 6. You'll see in the local levy revenue, since we're at the half-year mark, it's pretty easy to see. We don't have any differences due to timing. This is our true variance in the fiscal year to date. We're at 99% of our levy revenue for the year. In the federal revenue, the difference there is mostly due to our SOS grant, state opioid and stimulant response. And that is because we had a little bit of underspending from last fiscal year that ended in September. And this current fiscal year that was supposed to start in October actually hasn't started yet because the state just finalized the budgets and approved our budgets. We are in February. They just approved the budgets for the fiscal year that started in October. So there's a delay in that program there. So we're showing a variance in budget for revenue. And then you also see that in our grant funded program expenses line. And then I'm going to also point out in the miscellaneous revenue line, some variance there is due to Danny's Place and City of Toledo ARPA funds. And those are mostly just due to timing of when I had it budgeted versus when we are actually seeing the expenses and revenue flowing. And then on the expense side, as I mentioned, the same things that we're seeing in revenue as variances, we're also seeing in the grant funded program expenses line. And for the month of December, we had a decrease in net assets of 1.6 million. On the balance sheet on page 7, in the cash, we had a decrease of about 2.19 million. And you can see that in the various expenses on pages 8 through 9. Some of the things I laid out for you was our legal, our expenses for the Local Help Now app, and expenses related to Danny's Place. And then at the end of December, our non-designated board fund balance was down to 15.4 million. And there is a motion on the bottom of page 5.
Any questions for Jenny? Any discussion? I've entertained a motion at the bottom of page 5.
So moved.
Second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Jenny, you're up next.
I am. The financial forecast is on page 10. We normally bring you a financial forecast every 6 months, so this isn't updated to that. The forecast that we brought to you the last time was in September, and there's not a lot of change in this one since the one in September, other than a few minor things in revenue in the state and federal Ohio Moss allocations, and they were also offset in the expense, so you don't see a change in the fund balance for that. We did not change anything in relation to the local levy funds revenue. Obviously, we hope that increases with passing the levy next month, but as we don't know the outcome of that, we kept it as it is at 18.6 million throughout the forecast period. And then the only major changes that we made to the forecast was in the expense sections. We updated the legal for what we knew had changed, and in the POS line, which is our purchase of service, our treatment line, in the forecast in September, I had forecasted an increase of 10% for our increased Medicaid rates. We mimic Medicaid rates, and they increased as of January 1st. We now have a better understanding that that's closer to a 12% increase than a 10% increase. So I reflected that in the forecast as well. There were some other changes that I was aware of that we reflected in the forecast, but nothing significant in the forecast. So you'll see when you look at the bottom of page 10, our minimum fund balance is set at 8.9 million, and we will reach that if you look at the ending fund balance line at the very bottom in fiscal year 26. So obviously the way that you, if you fall below your minimum fund balance, you have to make changes. You either need to increase your revenue or you need to decrease your expenses. Obviously, we hope to pass the levy next month, but without that, we are moving forward with making reductions in expenses. So we are planning to reduce expenses for fiscal year 25 by $950,000. And anticipate another $800,000 in fiscal year 26, and then substantial cuts further if our levy doesn't pass. Of that $950,000 for fiscal year 25, we as board staff have evaluated, excuse me, sorry. We as board staff evaluated what our priorities were. We also determined that we wanted the effect of the cuts to be taken internally as much as possible versus in the community. So we are anticipating to take the first $400,000 of reductions internally between our administrative costs and our board directed. And we plan to do that by not filling the administrative assistant position in fiscal year 24. So the savings of that followed with not filling it going into fiscal year 25. In addition,
Excuse me.
oh, I'm sorry.
Can you open the door back up? This has to be an open meeting. Thank you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. In addition, we anticipate underspending for fiscal year 24 and decreasing spending in fiscal year 25. We're going to decrease health equity funds by $100,000 and our strategic plan that was forecasted by $150,000. This does not mean that these are not priorities for us. They're still very much so priorities. We just believe that those funds could be absorbed in some of our other areas, like the strategic plan, for example. A large section of that is our ITP program. We already have funds built into our ITP budget that we are able to use for that. So that incorporates our $400,000 of anticipated reductions that we anticipate taking internally between fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25, which is about 40% of the reductions that we anticipate for the next fiscal year. The remaining $550,000, Amy will discuss when we get to the 120-day notices in the next section. And I am happy to answer any questions that anyone has on that.
Can you give an overview of what the health equity funds covered?
You want to answer that one?
A lot of our initiatives that we would do in the community would be covered under that programming, helping to support other outside agency programming, training, any types of sponsorships that we would have as well as related to DEI.
And that was, again, purposefully done as far as cutting.
Yeah, we've had some underspending the last couple of years, and so the room's actually there. And then with other access to marketing and things of that nature was included in that. But now we've increased our marketing budget in other areas. We have the ability now to say, hey, if we need those funds, we can be more directed in what we're spending.
And those funds were available to funded agencies and non-funded agencies?
Well, not in that way. So what would happen would be if we were doing a training or like we've had sponsored trainings, there were access to those funds that we used for our agencies to be able to have access to trainings or if they were participating in our trainings.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jenny?
I just wanted to add, that budget was $335,000 each year. So a decrease of $100,000 is still a pretty sizable budget.
Understood. Thank you.
Jenny, can you explain the other income line? I mean, it seems to be a bit of a roller coaster.
Oh, yes. So that is where we have City of Toledo ARPA funds and Danny's Place. Yep.
That makes sense to folks? ARPA, okay, yeah. Big lump sums and then they go away. Right. Any other questions for Jenny? Okay.
It's just informational.
Yeah, it says we need action, but we really don't.
Well, did I screw up on that?
I'm not saying who did, I'm just saying.
Oh, no, let's be clear, it would be me.
We
No,
don't
that's-
have the
yeah.
executive assistant.
Yeah, there's no action on that.
All right, Amy, you got number 7 and number 8, please?
Yes, okay, page 11 in the packet if you're following along. As Jenny referenced, the Ohio Revised Code requires boards to give notice of 120 days in advance of any possibility that a contract may not be renewed or if there may be substantial changes to the contract. So in preparing for fiscal year 25, as well as considering the current financial forecast, we have to make significant reductions. Jenny mentioned in 25, the total that we're aiming towards reducing is 950,000, and the initial 400,000 of that 950 is coming from internal board directed and administrative funds. So that leaves about 550,000 remaining that will come from policy and programmatic changes that we're recommending today. So on page 11, starting with bullet point number 1 there, we kind of numbered what our recommendations are. The first recommendation there, number 1, is a change in freezing all program allocations at their current fiscal year 24 level, except for those that will be identified throughout the 120-day notices. So keeping all program allocations at their current level, not changing them for 25, results in a proposed savings of about 470,000. So that gets us really close to the 550 right there. Go ahead.
When you say they're gonna that it represents a savings, is it because they normally go up? So by freezing them, that means in the projections, we've given them an increase.
Yes, so
Right.
every grant funded program typically has the opportunity to request a 2% increase in their
Got it.
programming, and that's included in the financial forecast, right?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I just
So-
wanted
so
to make
that
sure I
won't be
knew where this
available.
470 was coming from. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Sure. So then number 2 is related to our subsidy schedule. So currently we have a subsidy schedule that includes a category called the hardship category. And that provides coverage for treatment services for households within the 250 to 350% of poverty guidelines. So our change that we're recommending is changing that 250 to 350 and amending it to 250 to 300% of the poverty guidelines. So eliminating that 301 to 50% of the poverty guidelines. So that is an estimated savings of about 80,000. And how we established that was we looked at claims over the last several years. We looked at household incomes and who specifically is using that part of the subsidy schedule. And keeping in mind that we really want to kind of do the least harm as possible to the community, to the individuals, to the programs that we fund. So that will impact the agencies who receive a purchase of service contract or those treatment contracts. And those agencies are actually listed on page 11 and going over to page 12. So each agency is listed, and then within that, we included the estimate of the financial impact. So we looked at the claims that each agency has submitted over the last few years and established how much of their purchase of service contract will need to be amended. So that's why you'll see different amounts for different agencies. Some agencies use that hardship category within the subsidy schedule more than others. But overall, it's estimated to be about an $80,000 savings by amending that. Yes.
So the money listed is the amount that you're gonna cut what they get from us?
Their purchase of service allocation will be reduced by that amount.
Okay, and under unison, I assume it's a typo, it should be 4,800.
Yes.
And what about the ones that say zero?
Yes, you can
The
eliminate
ones
one of
that
those
say
zeros
zero,
there.
does that mean, what does that mean?
It means they haven't historically used any claims within that allowance. So they haven't used the hardship category for the folks that they serve.
But it's still a change to the contract that requires 120
Yeah,
days notice.
it's a
Correct.
policy change.
It's a
there.
policy change, so, yeah.
Hi, is this then just for the first quarter? And if our ballot initiative were to pass, our levy were to pass, will we be coming back and then revisiting this in the second quarter or third quarter out?
I'll say that that is a very reasonable thing to do, but that wouldn't be a blanket for all 120-day notices.
Okay.
So as Amy proceeds down the conversation, you'll see some other justifications. But as Amy referenced, the thought behind eliminating reimbursement for 350 to 300% of poverty was doing the least harm to those who need it the most. And arguably, people in that higher bracket can have other alternatives.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Anything else before we move on? Yes, Steve?
Just so I have a clear frame of reference, can you tell me approximately what the household income would be for a household that's 250 to 350% wage as poverty guideline and the 250 to 300? It just roughly.
We actually do have it here.
I acknowledge I should probably, but I don't.
But no,
I got a guess
it's a
on
lot
top
of
of my
numbers.
head. It's about 50 grand, I would imagine.
So currently, it would be for a household of one, it would be a monthly income of $3,039 to $4,253.
Which is that?
That's the hardship category, that's monthly.
For
household
which
of
bracket though? For 250 to 350 or for 250 to 300?
250 to 350.
Okay.
So just divide that in half for
Yeah,
the.
yeah.
Anything else before I move on?
Thank you.
Sure, no, I appreciate the questions. The next ones that are remaining in the 120-day notice are kind of the typical things that we see every year. So those first few ones are the nuanced ones that are different for the current financial environment that we're in. So moving on page 12 for bullet point number 3, the ones that are listed from here on out under number 3 are the ones included here today because of performance or underspending, basically. So the first one here is Harbor, and they have a total of 3 programs who will be receiving 120-day notice. They're all prevention programs, but they are a little different. So the first one is the Community Senior Prevention Implementation. This program has struggled performance-wise for the last several years. And it's really been an impact of COVID, but with that, I think they have also learned a lot of lessons along the way. And one of those things that they shared with us recently was within this program, they have one curriculum. They target senior centers, they target nursing homes, they target other areas where senior citizens congregate. And with that, there's not a lot of change with those senior citizens, and there's only one curriculum that we offer. So it's kind of like once they go there, they do this education for the seniors, they can't really go back too much because there's not a lot of change and it's not meant to be duplicated. So they have some plans in place to kind of expand the opportunities to reach seniors for the next fiscal year. So this will give us an opportunity to meet with them should they appeal this process, and we can kind of talk through those nuances and talk about implementing any changes within the program. With those programmatic changes, they've also had a lot of underspending, and that has been primarily because of staffing issues that they faced during COVID and beyond. They are currently fully staffed, though, I think in pretty much all of these programs. So that hopefully is not going to be the same issue that it's been historically. The next one is the FACES program, and programmatically that program has been performing. It's just had a lot of underspending, again, due to staffing issues. And then same for number 3, which is the individual placement and support program, which is a supported employment program. That one is listed on here, not because of program performance, but more so because of the underspending. The next one is neighborhood properties. So neighborhood properties is being included in the 120-day list specifically for their adult care facility program. This one is on here because it's actually sort of a good thing. This program provides subsidies to adults who are living in group homes or adult care facilities. Those group home operators then can choose to affiliate with NPI, and part of that affiliation opens up an opportunity for them for the residents to be eligible for a board-funded subsidy to help pay their rent for those group homes. But statewide, there's another subsidy that's available for the same population called a residential state supplement subsidy, and that pays for the same thing that the board subsidy pays for. It now has an increase in their budget statewide, and there's, I don't know, I think maybe 22 million or some large number that is now available in this RSS supplement statewide. So when meeting with NPI, we talked about board funds should be a payer of last resort, and if a person living in a group home is eligible to receive the RSS subsidy through the state, then they should be moved over to that. So with that transition, NPI is working with the group home operators as well as the residents to transition them from board subsidy to the RSS, therefore opening up local funds that should be available. It's a big process. It's a working process, to say the least. So we're estimating right now that the cost savings with that will be $50,000, which is probably a conservative number. We're assuming that the number may actually end up being more, but we're at the very beginning stages of all of this. So more to come with that, but they will be part of the 120-day notice list as we work through all of that. The next one listed here is the Learning Club. Learning Club is an after-school program that focuses on literacy for kids in grades, I think 4 through 6, if I'm not mistaken. And this program is on here because programmatically it has not been reaching its numbers. But it's kind of an unfair statement to say, because we look at an unduplicated number of kids who go through this program and receive this support. But what the Learning Club has realized is that they are still getting a good number of referrals coming in, but they're actually keeping kids longer in their program because the needs are greater. And they're also providing supportive services to the family, not just to the youth. So because of that, the turnover in the program is actually not going at the rate that we have it identified in our metrics. So it's getting 120-day notice. Our intent is not to take any money away from the program, but our hope is that in the appeal process that we'll be able to realign the metrics that we have set up for this program. And then finally, in this category, Task of Northwest Ohio, their reentry program. It too has struggled a lot during COVID. It has received 120 notice last year and maybe even the year before that, as we're trying to still allow Task to serve the adults coming back into Lucas County from the prison system, and trying to sort of right size it, I guess, correctly. So they have been underperforming because of probably lots of things internally with how they get referrals from the prison system. Many of these adults returning to the community volunteer to receive services in this program specifically. Many times they are not on any type of supervision or anything like that. So they are receiving 120 notice. And again, our hope is not to take money away from this program, but to meet with them to figure out how we can better align the program to serve the folks that the program is intended to serve. Any questions about any of that before
I
we
have
move on
a
to the next
question
one?
on both Task and the Learning Club. When you speak of realigning, I understand what that means. What happens if there's a failure to realign? There's no dollar attached to that.
Well, that's a good question.
Let me speak to that. It's not always about taking money. So this is a good time maybe to let you all know, I'm sure most of you have lived through this, but the 120-day process is a negotiation. So it starts with giving the 120-day notice before March 1st, or according to statute. And then within 60 days, we have the opportunity to meet with all the entities that received the 120-day notice and talk about a possible solution. Now, unlike previous years, we have the intent to get to a specific number, that $550,000 in cuts. So that's going to have to weigh heavily on our conversations. But to your point, what happens after that 60 days, if we are not able to come to some level of agreement, the board makes a decision on what they would like to see. And if the agency is not if the agency is not in agreement, they have the ability to appeal to the State Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services regarding that decision. If the department decides to pick that up and have a mediation, which is also non-binding, then we are obligated to go through that. If they decline that, then your decision stands. So, the decision could be, no, we're just going to keep the numbers where they're at and you're going to have to figure it out. Or we come to an agreement as to a lower amount. Typically, these kinds of things are usually settled within a couple of conversations about, this is what we'd like to see, tell us what you can do. Okay, that makes sense. Or no, it doesn't. So, but normally what happens is within that first 60 days, if either one of us doesn't like the way things are going, they can actually request a board-to-board meeting. And so we've scheduled that into our timelines. And we would encourage our agencies that don't agree to use the full options available to them, because we want to make the best decisions for our community. But in the end, the board staff have made a recommendation, like after we meet with the agencies and board staff make a recommendation. And if you all don't accept that recommendation, which is fine, it's your prerogative, then it's really up to you guys then to decide what you want to do. Because we've made our recommendation. That'll be up to you guys then. And so however that ends up. And we built in some buffer, as Amy will talk about once she's finished, to give you guys some opportunities to make some discretionary spending decisions.
And that has happened since I've served.
Absolutely. And we encourage it to happen because, we're sitting up here saying, okay, this is our vision, but you have agencies that are living and breathing this and saying, okay, hey, we might be able to do something better over here instead of doing this. So that's the conversations. And we've had some of those conversations already, don't get me wrong, but, so that's kind of the process. Wasn't kind of the process, that is the process. So,
Just,
I want to back up to the hardship thing. A couple of the agencies I know, some of the people they serve are certainly meet that qualification or hardship. So are they billing another agency or are they getting their money elsewhere? They don't need to bill.
oh no, let's be clear. There will be people who go unserved if and when that gets cut.
Because it says 0.
For some people who are, if it says 0, then they weren't using it to begin with.
So they
The agencies that have a dollar amount are using it proportionally. The agencies that don't have a dollar amount are not using the hardship.
So I know they serve people who have a hardship. They must be using something else.
I could not tell you what
Or
they
their
would be
reports
doing.
aren't good.
I would never say that either.
and then, this includes like some of, I'm assuming this also reflects some of the ideas and stuff that have come back from them as to what they like, where they think they could take cuts.
You mean overall from the agency? Well, some of them we've had conversations with in advance for sure, yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I just, we had talked about that a few meetings ago, and I just was making sure that this is a reflection of those conversations.
Everyone who had a substantial amount in the 120-day notice receives a phone call from me. I remember I was on the other side of this getting 120-day notices, and I would read it in the packet. I don't want that to occur. So if you're getting a substantial one, I call you and tell you, hey, this is what we're thinking. And then I walk you through the process so that everybody understands what's going on.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Scott.
And so then for like Harbor, who has several programs on here, and NPI, who's going through a big shift in their program, we met with them in advance of today and have talked through a lot of this stuff with them already. I'm hoping to get to a mutual outcome.
Awesome. Good job. Thank you.
I have one question. Just so when we see the estimated financial impact, does that impact just the agency or impact that we're taking in to make sure that we're lowering our threshold for our budget that we need to be, get in line with our lower budget?
That would be the amount that we plan to reduce their allocation to hit the 550 number that we're trying to get to out of the programs and services.
So second part is, so for like with MPI, since we said that number is kind of fluid, it could be higher. We would still keep that where it is with that. So that wouldn't necessarily change where we are. That would just change where they are.
Correct.
Okay. That's what my question.
Yeah, we may realize more. We could realize less.
Okay. That's my question. Thank you.
Any other questions for Amy before she moves on to number 4? Okay.
All right, number 4. This one, same as last year. These are all programs that are strictly funded through Ohio Mas dollars, but because we don't have that guarantee from Ohio Mas as of today that they're going to be funded in fiscal year 25, they become part of the 120-day notice as well, just in case those funds don't come through. So then that takes us to page 14. And to kind of summarize where we're at here, so if all of these recommendations are accepted, the savings related to these policy and programmatic changes will equal $662,843, which is above that $550 that we talked about. So it's actually $112,843 above the $550 target, if you're following all of that. So that will actually leave room for the allowances during the appeals process if things change as we meet with the agency specifically.
Are you gonna take all these at once?
So I believe we could take all of them at once.
David has a plan, Amy.
Oh,
Excuse me.
okay.
David has a plan.
David
has a plan.
We're going to come very close to taking them all at once. There's one that we're going to take out and do separately. Yeah, Nima.
With regard to number 4, given the expansiveness of what looks like an expansive list to me, let's assume for the moment, worst case scenario, and OMAS does not fund these. Are there going to be remaining in our community suicide prevention promotion services? Will there be something that addresses suicide prevention in Lucas County?
Yes, just not through these programs. I mean, we still have the coalition and they do a lot of work with
Okay.
suicide prevention. And there are other agencies who also do other projects.
And we fund programs like mental health first aid and question,
All right, that's what I wanted.
persuade,
Thank
refer, and several other things.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions before we vote? What I would propose, unless there's an objection, I'm going to go through this and read just the names of each agency, so we'll know for the record exactly what we're voting on. And there will be one that will not be in here. We'll vote on it separately, if that's okay. So we're going to have, this motion is to send 120-day notices that are all different and involve different aspects of the contract to the following agencies: the Zeph Center, Harbor, Ohio Guidestone, Unison, Filio New Concept, Family and Child Abuse Prevention Center, Suicide, Urban, UMADOP, Adult Care Facility Program at Neighborhood Properties, the Learning Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Mercy St. Vincent, Swanton Area Community Coalition, Sylvania Prevention Alliance, and the Center of Hope Family Services. I would entertain a motion to approve all of those 120-day notices together. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Any clarification needed? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Next, I'd like to entertain a motion with respect to 120-day notice to Task of Northwest Ohio.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I abstain. Thank you. I don't think we need this, but you want to talk anything about the letters at all?
No, the letters, just of course, they're the actual letters that'll be signed and sent by March 2nd, I believe.
All right. So let's go through all this extra paper.
As required.
Okay. All right. Amy, you've got health officers.
Oh, okay, I am on page 35 after you go through all of those letters there. Health Officer Advisory Group met. We have 2 new applicants and 6 renewal applications. And the folks here all met the requirements to become health officers for Lucas County. So there's a motion in the middle of page 35.
Any questions, concerns for Amy? Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Michael, you want to review the stakeholder forum for us?
Yep, make it pretty quick for us. As you may remember, a couple of weeks ago, on January 16th, we had our stakeholders forum, and we had each organization was given 3 minutes to be able to discuss their views, their recommendations that would align with the statement, where it's in the middle of the page as MHRSB aims to reduce its FY25 spending by $950,000. Speakers are encouraged to present creative solutions that their organization and the board can implement, thereby minimizing the impact of individuals receiving services. We used a hybrid form this particular year. We had 8 speakers in total, 7 agencies, 1 county commissioner. In that, we have 5 presenters in person, 3 agencies that were online. They were also able to provide us with written comments as well, which we, in all cases, the written comments matched what was spoken but they're included as well. So after you look at what we wrote here for the forum, you'll see the stakeholder actual forum notes that are typed up with what each agency essentially presented for us.
Great. Any questions or comments about the stakeholder forum?
It was just really nice. It was.
It's a good summary, yeah.
Yeah, this is really
Yeah,
great
it's
to
helpful.
be able to go back and kind of reflect and, because you remember, but you forget at the same time certain things. So to keep in mind, and as a board member, I think that it's very empowering to be able to hear directly from the agencies and the fact that they take their time to do this, as busy as they are. I really appreciate it. When I was on Harbor's board, I had presented, I believe it was 3 or 4 different times over the years, and it's not easy to say everything you want to say in that short period of time and make the points you want to make. So I just want to express gratitude more than anything to everyone who participated on our end as well as their end, because this is really important.
Okay, thanks. Amy, you're going to talk about the summary descriptions?
Yes, there was an extra packet by the Planning and Oversight meeting. Yes, that one, I actually don't have that. It is literally just a list of all of our programs that we funded for fiscal year 24, alphabetically by the agency, and it has a summary of what each program does there. So this is also found on our website, and the link is on page 39 there in the packet as well. So you can always access this online as well.
Thank you. Everybody's like chiming in and saying, "Oh, this is great." A cheat sheet.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Amy? Any comments about that? For Amy? All right, Scott, you're up.
Okay, thank you, folks. Just draw your attention to the last page, page 40. We're getting close. Let's just say that. We're getting real close. Just give you an update. We visited the suite today. The plans are going well. We have a timeline for the move, and it's going to go something like this. On Friday, our systems, about 4 o'clock, our computer systems, emails, etc., will go dark. We'll shut them off. On Monday morning, our movers will, our IT, Lucas County Information Systems, will come over and they'll start packing up all of our stuff as far as the IT stuff, desktops, monitors, keyboards, that kind of stuff. Tuesday morning, the movers will arrive and move everything over to 333 North Summit, Suite 1400, where that will be our new home.
So excited.
Wednesday, our internet will be connected, and so we'll be up and running electronically that day. Between now and then, pretty much everything you see in our suite will need to make a decision on if it's staying or moving. Whatever is left here will be up for grabs for whoever wants it at the county. Because once we leave, we also leave our rights to its ownership, which is fine. The new suite is largely, as I've said before, largely furnished. We're only moving 7 office spaces. We purchased new conference room furniture for the large conference room. And we purchased additional IT stuff that is being installed now. It is going to take some getting used to. We still don't have the full protocol for how we access the building, how you all access the building, how visitors access the building. And so we're gonna have to send that to you in writing. One thing we know is we are very eager to move. And we're looking forward to settling in on our new spot. But let's not let the moment pass to recognize that this is the last board committee meeting that we will have in this space. Our next.
I'm gonna miss that window.
Pastor?
In terms of logistics, can you estimate from the time that we park, how long it would take to get to?
So that we're on time.
Thank you for that, because I actually walked that today. So, we are, our new parking is on the, St. Clair side of the building, in the lot, in the garage that, connects to 333 North Summit. You can park in any of the areas above the second floor. So third floor and above are all unrestricted. The walkway is actually on the second floor. There is a little bit of a walk to there until you hit a stairwell, but there is a elevator that takes you one floor down to one, and then you walk probably another 100 yards. In all, I don't know, 5-6 minutes to get through all that. And that's assuming you come in through that way and not down and just cross the street and come in the back door. But you'll all have to check in at security. There'll be a sign-in process. We're trying to work out all that now. We're trying to figure out IDs, and we'll collect those IDs from you today if you like, if you have them. Or you can keep them and we can settle in on it at the new place, because we'll have to figure out what the new one looks like. Matter of fact, I think I'd prefer you guys keep it. I think I'd prefer you keep it until we settle out what the new protocol looks like at the new site. That way you have something. It's been a journey, and you can go back in there if you want to take a little walk around for memory's sake, and feel free to reach in there and throw some paper in one of the bins, because that's what we're doing now. We're loading up all of the bins that we have. So staff will report on site at here for the last time Monday, and then we will just break up in teams and walk through all the general areas and just make decisions, come and go, and packing whatever's left. They are working remotely on Tuesday, and then Wednesday they show up at the new site, unpack their stuff.
Are you happy?
We will have some kind of opening, but we will not have like an open house until April, once we get through our levy campaign, because we won't be settled to have. Everybody's welcome to come in. I'm sure we'll have a lot of people at our March or our February 20th meeting just to see the space, and we'll be prepared for that. But we'll have some official open house once we get through the levy campaign.
No meeting this Tuesday.
No, there's a meeting on the 20th. That is our next meeting.
Okay.
And if you recall, in March, we agreed that there would only be one meeting in March. And that's that, I always mess it up, 5th or 6th, I don't know. And we're not gonna have a meeting on March 19th.
Except maybe at the bars. To celebrate. All right, any questions for Scott? Any other comments?
I have a comment. This is just about one of the programs that we are funding in our effort to really get some more services into the Latino community. I have a little testimonial. We actually my organization sent a young man to the Belief Center, and he has been, the report that has come back is he's thriving. He has had a lot of challenges, legal issues and mental health issues. And so when he came back with his mom to us, he's a 16-year-old and she has a younger child too. He's stabilizing and he's doing really, really well, and he actually really enjoys it. And it's the first time in a very long time that he's been able to say that about any of the programming that he's been a part of. So I just wanted to put that out there. Kudos to the Blue Center.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. All right.
Sometimes we get it right.
And when I heard that,
Exactly.
All right, open session. You want to start, Richard?
There was so much going on at Government Center, I couldn't possibly cover it all. I didn't get out of there last night until 8:30. The situation with the protesters is getting much, much worse. For anyone who has been following this, the protesters have been coming to all of the budget committees, which usually lasts like 3 to 4 hours. Last night's meeting started at 4 p.m. ended at 7:50, and then they agreed to take 10 people to testify, 3 minutes apiece. They try and hold them to that. And when they are finished, they all go to the garage and line up on either side so that as the council members come out, they wave flags and sign on. The testimony is absolutely gut-wrenching. A lot of the people know someone that has either perished in the Middle East war or they're underneath rubble. They don't know where they are. And they want city council to pass some form of a ceasefire proclamation, and they have refused to do that. They've tabled it. I don't know what's going on. They have 2 more meetings tomorrow. I know they still have to prepare the budgets for municipal judges and municipal judges clerk. And then Monday, they have 1 more budget meeting, and then they hope to have this budget passed by Wednesday of next week. We'll see what happens, but it's really a mess of it. I've seen everything. I mean, I see the pro-life people dragged out and the community activists dragged out. I was there the night Peter Buggy broke the gavel. They had gun legislation. I was there when Mike Turner dumped the dead fish into the fountain outside, but I've never seen anything like this. It just pales in comparison, and it's a long way from over. On the other side of that coin, this morning was a great meeting at the County Commission for Black History Month. So they had music, and they had poetry, and they had proclamations, and they had speeches. It was a sellout crowd, and everybody had a good time. And as usual, when they finish with the proclamations, they go on to the business section of the meeting, and the room clears out like it was a bomb threat. Everybody goes out to the lobby and socialite. So among the business this morning, they have rejected all 3 of the bids to move Children's Services Board to the new building. I don't know why. They said they need further clarification. I said, well, is this going to delay their move? They say they are looking at May or June, hopefully. But they are going to reject and rebid all of the proposals to move Children's Services Board to the new building. And then at their afternoon meeting, they took the official step and they will RFP for a commercial real estate broker to try and sell this building. They're going to try and unload this money pit. They'll probably take a bulldozer to it, but they took that action today. And so, indulge me just for a minute. This is something I've been discussing with the county commissioners. A lot of the people served by this board are on food stamps. They use them to feed themselves and their children. They have to fill out a 12-page document in order to apply for food stamps. It's a bunch of questions. These questions range from absurd to disturbing. I mean, they ask you things like, if you add the bank accounts of everybody in your household, is it more than $1 billion? I don't know why. They do ask, is anyone in your household receiving substance abuse treatment services? And they want you to name that person. I don't know why they do that. But the one that really bothers me, they will be asked, is anyone in your household currently fleeing felony prosecution or in violation of parole or probation? I'm going to call it what it is. That's snitching. It's very dangerous. People who are snitches don't take it very well, and they do terrible things. I'm expressing an opinion here. I don't know why Job and Family Services is in the snitch business. I complained to the county commissioners. They are looking into it. I'm guessing they're going to say to me, federal mandate, we got to say that, whatever. But I'm trying to find out what someone has answered yes to that question. What happens to the information? Is it held in strict confidence, or maybe they notify the legal police and pretty soon the SWAT team is at your door? I don't know, maybe they sent out a caseworker to, you want to turn yourself in, you bad person. I don't know. I do not know if it's held in strict confidence, but I don't believe they should be for the snitch business. I think it's very dangerous. And I'm gonna try and find out what they, but a lot of the people served by this board are using food stamps to feed themselves and their children. And I think that questionnaire really needs to be looked at. So I'll let you know what I find out. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Anyone else wish to speak? Not, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.